is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. I got a very special solo show for you guys here today. So with that being said, we're going to be talking about the market. All right. We're going to be talking about a little bit of the rates. We're going to be doing a lane analysis here. Again, this is all about teaching people how to accurately read freight markets by somebody who actually moves freight. So we're going to be doing that. And then we're going to be breaking down a couple of articles here like we always do. And we're staying on point with that. But again, you guys, this is all about those actionable insights. And, you know, it's like I was saying late last year, and I've alluded to earlier this year, you know, we may or may not be having a massive data partner coming on this show, and it's going to be the official data partner, potentially, of course, of the podcast. And, you know, again, it's always going to be about helping people read the market from somebody who's actually building a book of business, a business itself who's actively moving freight. And I think it's very, very important, and especially in times like right now, of learning from people who've been through this before, right? Like I've been in market shifts, plenty of them in my career. And, you know, again, there's a lot more stability out there than people want to sell you on. And I'd love for you guys to all go out and buy all my, you know, sign up with all my advertisers and everything else. But like, this is all about education on this show, and it's always going to be about education. So with that being said, I have that lane that we had studied a couple weeks back, or maybe it was last week. I don't remember, you guys. It's been it's been a busy couple of weeks here, getting everything reestablished. But this lane that we are going to be talking about here today, you guys, is Kansas City, Kansas to Minneapolis, Minnesota reefer edition, because that's what it was last time out there. And as you can see, all right, it's remained stable. All right. So the last 50, it was a couple of weeks back. It was, or I think it was last week. Again, my dates are off here, but obviously if you look at the 7-day market here and then the 3-day market, rates have actually increased. And that's an interesting point to take and pay attention to here, right? Because we're middle of January at this point, and this is where the holiday hangover, in my experience, starts to really dissipate, right? So again, yes, you've seen an increase in pricing coming up post-holiday here. It was, I think it was when we pulled this up a couple of weeks back, it was right around that 1,500 mark. And then, but it's since spiked. And again, I see a lot of this. Again, we can attribute weather events to this. And then we also need to look at and take into that post-holiday hangover where people are going to be continuing to ask for higher rates that are out there. And I've just continue to see a lot of people talk about the Midwest region in particular, about how rates have continued to rise out there. So again, if I'm a driver, get your money when you can, right? I'm all about that. I want everybody to get paid. But as a broker, I wouldn't raise the alarm yet and potentially speak about a rate increase or anything like that. I look at it is if this lane in particular continues to stay this way and it's the end of January, I would argue that it's probably going to remain this level. And so again, but if we do the inverse, right? When we go up to Minneapolis and come back down to Kansas City, that one, the last time we pulled this up was at like I think it was at like 2,400 is where it was at. So it's pretty much stayed the same, right? It's down to 2,300 that is out there. If I had a refrigerated fleet right now and I was running between Kansas and Minneapolis, I would try and be locking in these prices as long as possible because this is a very profitable lane. As you can see, it's 439 miles. And, you know, again, I always like to preface this by this is public school math only on this show. And if we're looking at that, that's like $4,000 on a round trip. And then if you take that, and we have times 2, All right, 4,000 times 878. That's 455 a mile round trip on that lane is what it's averaging, right? I'm not saying that that's what you're going to get paid out there, but again, pay attention to this. This is a seemingly very profitable lane. Now, again, data can be subjective. If this is all -10 frozen, or if this is going to be in the freeze protect realm and everything. But again, like there's been stability over here over these last couple of weeks. And again, it's good to see that it's remained elevated. This compared to the 90-day freight market is a rate increase, as you can see. And then again, if we're looking at the Kansas going up, there's a stark increase on this over the 90-day period. So again, if this remains elevated, this is a data point I want you to pay attention to over the next couple of weeks. I'm hopefully going to remember to pull this up here next week or the week after when we're doing another solo show, just to show this, right? Because again, I want people to see the overall time frame that comes along with this stuff, because again, there's a lot more stability than you think. But again, these are very clear indicators on what's happening in the market out there. And drivers, go get your money. All right. Kansas to Minneapolis is like 455 a mile round trip based on the data that we're seeing out there. So check that one out, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's also go into some market data as a whole, okay? If we're looking at and again, this is the national average that's out there. Spot rates are at $240 a mile for dry vans, $290 a mile for reefers, and $255 a mile for flatbeds out there. Again, this is national average as a whole. Load posts, as you can see over these last couple of weeks, load posts for flatbeds have skyrocketed, and your boy is very much paying attention to that, because if load posts are skyrocketing, that means brokers are starting to have trouble covering freight. And if that's happening, especially now for flatbeds, when it's not typically peak season right now, it's a very good sign for my book of business and my prospects that I'm going to be going after. But that's neither here nor there. Just one of those things. And again, load posts are up for reefer as well, 22%, 16% out there as a whole. There's normally a January collapse, right? Like I was talking about, the holiday hangover that comes along with it. Traditionally, van rates do drop 20 to 25 cents over in the first 10 days of the year. But this year, only 7 cents. So again, like I had mentioned on the last solo show that we did, this is one of those data points that I would want to pay attention to. This is why I usually give it the whole month of January, because again, there could be a couple week lull, holiday hangover, weather events and stuff that could keep rates elevated. But again, it looks like rates have stayed a little bit elevated more than anybody else thought. It is going on to say, though, that, some points of emphasis out there. Mexican produce season is in full swing. Nogales, Arizona is ground zero for a capacity crunch potentially out there. And then Nogales is obviously going to start pulling reefers from Yuma, Phoenix, Tucson, stuff like that. So again, that could have a ripple effect depending on how far people want to draw a deadhead that is out there. So, yeah, I think that right now, I'm selfishly really paying attention to flatbed posts being up 46% year over year. And it's really good. It's really good for guys like me who are out there trying to build their book of business. And again, like I've always said, if I'm wrong and like the market does shoot up, like my brokerage wins. But again, I like to call balls and strikes as I see it. And I don't necessarily need to be the first one to talk about something. I just like being right. And so far, again, that's why I want to really wait until the end of this this month of January to put any bold predictions that we're seeing out there. But again, I think that it's remained a little bit more stable than a lot of people thought. And again, that's why it's always important to hear from people who are like, actually doing the job and not sitting on the sidelines and hypothetically thinking about something. It's just like for me personally, you guys, I don't mean to like harp on any individuals or any company or anything like that. Chris Jolly, the individual, I learn better from people who actually do the work or like did the work for a very, very, very long time repeatedly. And then maybe they're sold their company and now they're out there talking about it and for, being a consultant and stuff like that. I just have a very hard time. And that's why I don't even like watching sports with a lot of it, right? Because like I have a hard time listening to some of these announcers who've never played the game before, right? Like I love watching Tom Brady announce the games and then even Tony Romo, because like they know the game. They lived the game. They were highly, highly successful at the game for a very, 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 very long time. They didn't just like casually do the job for a month or a year, and now they're trying to go out there and put out market predictions when they've only operated in an elevated market. So again, not here to knock on anybody, but this is the importance, you guys, of hearing from individuals who are actually building real companies inside of the industry. And again, it doesn't have to come from me. There's other great people out there, I'm sure of it. I'm just biased and will say that I'm the best freight broker in North America. But anyways, you guys, let's get into some articles here. First article that we are going to break down is overdriveonline.com. The FMCSA is called to suspend TQL authority over broker transparency. Small fleet owner Leander Richmond, never one to take any guff from brokers, filed a complaint to the DOT's National Consumer Complaint Database asking for mega broker TQL, their operating authority, to be suspended until it stops using broker transparency waivers in its contracts. Just based off of that first paragraph, I think that is a very tall order, considering I think a lot of brokers use that. But again, it could be an important domino. If they go out there and lobby this and get this removed, you never know. A lot of weird things could happen. And then it just kind of comes following a long legal saga involving the broker transparency regulations in 2023. I think I broke this article down when this happened back in 2023. Your boy's been doing this for a while. Following a load of ice cream gone wrong, owner-operator Dakota Springfield invoked her rights under the transparency regulations codified in 49 CFR 371.3 and requiring brokers to keep detailed records on transaction histories and hand them over to a carrier when they ask. TQL, like many brokers, include a clause in their broker carrier agreements asking the carrier to waive their right to that, but Springfield persisted anyways, eventually getting the FMCSA itself to step in. FMCSA demanded TQL to hand over the documents, also requesting it remove the broker transparency waiver in its contracts. While TQL complied with the former, it seems they completely ignored the FMCSA request. Springfield said that records revealed that TQL banked 44% of the gross on that load of ice cream, setting off something of an industry-wide debate on broker margins. Therefore, Springfield's sued TQL over its refusal to show transparency documentation on 14 other loads she hauled, as well as use of waivers in the contract. In November, the lawsuit was dismissed, but there has been an appeal that was filed. And essentially, the FMCSA is facing formal pressure now, like OIDA, to suspend their TQL's brokerage authority. I think that's a very, very tall order. I don't know, but again, it's a lawsuit. They're going to throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see which one sticks. The core of the conflict is their use of a waiver, and again, like this is this could be a very, very big deal if they somehow get TQL to change course on that, right? Because if that happens, it's not just going to be TQL who has to do that. And it goes on to say that critics argue that the FMCSA should not allow brokers to contract out federal regulations meant to ensure fair pay. Now, I've talked about broker transparency on this show ad nauseum at this point. Again, I look at it as brokers don't make as much money as you might think or want to believe. Again, just like go look at the 10Ks. Those are public financial documents of all the publicly traded companies that are in the industry. The C.H. Robinsons of the world, the J.B. Hunts of the world, Martin Transportation, Warner, Knights, all of them, and they all have brokerages. They have to publicly release that information. And if you look at that, some of those large companies that are like that, they are pretty much set up with every shipper that's out there. And if they're averaging, I don't have the numbers in front of me, 10 to 12%, chances are that's what the industry is averaging. Now, that is not to say that there isn't some anomalies out there that people do make big margins on loads, but you also don't, like, you only see that individual transaction. You don't see the losses on loads. I mean, I just personally lost $1,800 on a load. And before you go and rush and say anything, there was an in-transit modification that happened on that load. And I had to do some stuff to find a new carrier to actually deliver to the load where it was intended to be delivered when the original carrier had picked up said load and decided they did not want to deliver that load. So again, I digress, but like there's a lot of nuance behind what some people make on one individual transaction. And that's why it's like, you got to look at the overarching thing, right? Just like nobody complains when they make a lot of money. Seemingly all the complaints go away. But again, I get it. I want everybody to make money. I believe in responsible capitalism and everything else that comes along with it. I just personally think that this is a very, 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 very tall order. And I do not know if that's going to be removed from anything. I've read the verbiage inside of that. And I would challenge each and every one of you to go out and look at 49 CFR 371.3 for broker transparency. And I want you to pay attention to the verbiage and ask yourself, is that verbiage, again, remove your emotion from this, is that verbiage actually more inclined with the dispatch service that you might hire compared to what the broker actually does in the transaction? I just think of when that was written back in the 1980s or whenever it was. I think that the whole transaction has since shifted during that time frame, the 40 plus years that it's been now. So again, I don't want anybody to like go out of business, and I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't people out there who try and drive down rates and increase their profitability and everything else. I just think if you look at the industry as a whole and you pay attention to the largest companies out there who all of their financials are public, that is an actual pulse of where things are in the market as a whole. I think that it's going to be interesting to see, though. I mean, could the FMCSA run with this and take this to the Supreme Court and really push it? I mean, maybe, right? Could they change that? There's a possibility that it could happen. Will it, though? I don't know. I think if we're looking at the administration's objectives, I don't know if this is going to be in their top priorities. I'm not saying that could change, but again, I think that it's going to continue to be an uphill battle. I really do. And again, to each their own. If you're going to go out there and sue and try and get that stuff changed, do you at the end of the day. I just don't know if it's going to reveal the prosperous financials that you think brokers have out there. So again, to each their own. I know a lot of people love to rip on TQL for literally everything, but I just want to put this into context. You do not mistakenly become an $8 billion company because you don't know what you're doing. So again, that article, overdriveonline.com, FMCSA called to suspend TQL authority out there. Now, second article, which I think is going to continue to drive a potentially a lot more waves in the market than people could think in the long run if this continues. The second article we are going to talk about here today, you guys, is from ttnews.com. States IELP laws for truckers with motor carrier fines. Again, like I've mentioned, I just want an equal playing field out there. I don't want any loopholes of any kinds. I'm going to use a very broad and stroke a big brush of statements here, you guys. I look at it as there should not be any way that people should be allowed to skirt the laws and operate illegally in any way, shape, or form, whether that's through not having the right visas, not having the right licenses, driving on a suspended license, driving on a falsified ELD, or, stealing money, like anything. I want people held accountable for that because I feel like that is the only way to truly deter individuals from knowingly committing fraud and crimes and everything else is there has to be repercussions for their actions. And standards are a good thing because if I've had plenty of law-abiding carriers on this show who are seemingly at wit's end because why are they getting punished for doing the right thing, right? So again, I look at it as standards are a very, very good thing. And I like the fact that there is accountability to be had out there. But onto the article, multiple states are moving beyond the federal rules to implement their own teeth regarding ELP for drivers. While federal law already requires ELP, these states are introducing massive fines, up to like $3,000 and jail time for repeat offenders. Underline that, repeat offenders. Crucially, they are also fining the motor carriers that employ these drivers and giving them 12 hours to replace a non-compliant driver before the cargo is forcibly transferred. Now, after reading this, if I think there used to be a show called like Big Rig Bounty Hunter back in the day. If I was in the market to make some cash over the next year and you had a valid CDL, I would be willing to be that guy to go out there and be like a driver by hire. Just watch. That's going to be a thing here. You're going to start seeing it all over social media, and people are going to start building courses behind this for you guys. But that's probably what it's going to be. Is going to be a driver by hire. You're going to have to be available 24/7, be available on the next flight to get to that truck, to get it to deliver on time. But anyways, state level teeth. The FMCSA might take you out of service, but Wyoming and Oklahoma in particular are going to put you in a cell. It goes on to say, state legislators in Wyoming goes on to say the legislation requires commercial vehicles who operate in the state to demonstrate ELP. Violators would be fined $1,000 and banned from driving there until they can prove proficiency. If the driver again is found in Wyoming while prohibited, a misdemeanor conviction and with $1,000 fine and or 90 days in prison could be proposed. In Oklahoma, a similar thing is being done. They're hitting the ELP with a $3,000 fine for each violation. And then proceeds from the fines would be deposited into the Waste Station Improvement Revolving Fund. Prohibited drivers found operating in Oklahoma would be guilty of a misdemeanor, fined up to $1,000 and or imprisoned for up to 90 days. And after the citation is issued, and then that's the 12 hours. And then in Missouri, it was going on to say first-time violations can be found guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable of a maximum fine of $500. Convictions for offenses would be a Class B misdemeanor with penalties of up to 6 months in jail and $1,000 fines. Companies whose drivers are convicted would be fined $3,000 per violation. The proposed law also says motor carriers would be notified of the location of their vehicles if their driver is found to be in violation of the ELP. And then they would have 12 hours to pay the fine and present a compliant driver out there. And then this also goes on to say about that there's new laws in Alabama and Missouri about banning translation dictionaries and apps during CDL testers. It's English only or no license. And, again, what the main argument is this safety. And again, I know that there have not been, I always like to interject this, of all the crash data that is out there, there is no public data source available that says non-domiciled CDL holders are the leading cause of accidents in regards to semis. Actually, crash data has decreased over that time. So again, you have to call balls and strikes out there. And that is a very important data set, especially for the individuals out there who are all crying and screaming that it's just the non-domiciled driver. It's not just the non-domiciled drivers that are out there. But as I've said on the show once, and I will say it again, I want any and all driver to be able to read and speak English proficiently. And I want the roadways to become safer. And again, I've broached the idea in the past. I know this would be highly, highly annoying, but I think to remove any and all bias and any and all political meandering, we can call it in either way, make every single CDL holder redo and retest and just get it over with. It's going to be highly annoying. It's probably going to be 6 months, maybe a year. I don't know how they would do it, but that's how I would handle it if I was in their shoes. Because if it is truly about safety, whether you're born here, if you're born here and you're driving a truck and you cannot read and speak, read the signs, and hell, you might not even be able to speak the language. I don't know. It's a very overarching statement, but if it's truly about that, everybody should be able to be retested, and they can put that data out there. Hey, everybody who has a valid CDL, We've tested them. They're good. They're fine. And then I think that to the compliant carriers that are out there and do it, they should get some form of tax rebate, right? Like they should do something to incentivize us to get this done, to prove the validity of it. Because again, I feel like if there is a purge of capacity that goes on out there, and again, there's pockets that you could argue that are being affected by this out there in the market right now. I've heard of plenty of lanes and plenty of states that drivers are refusing to go into. And again, if you're refusing to go into a certain state and you're like, as a broker, I probably wouldn't want to book that carrier because chances are they're doing something that they shouldn't. Because again, if you're legally operating, you got nothing to worry about, right? Again, there could be a high annoyance period of like proving your validity, but I also look at it as we're at a very unique time in the market where, the current administration is pushing for this a lot. And I think that the faster we can get through this, the faster things are going to normalize. And I also think that the faster that the legitimate carriers out there are going to start making a lot more money, because I could see if there's any drop in capacity, again, basic supply and demand, drop in capacity, higher demand for the trucks, which means higher prices for the trucks. But that article, ttnews.com, check that one out, you guys. And that is going to be it for today. As always, the links to the articles that we broke down will be included in the show notes for you. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you got value, though, and you're not subscribed, do your boy a solid. You guys subscribe to that show, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Hey, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the